Playing Lords of the Realm, Impression's new game of feudal management and conquest, took me back to the earliest days of computer gaming, when a good time could be defined as a numbers game where you could become king by buying and selling sacks of grain.
Ah yes, the grand old days. But Impressions has taken that shopworm premise and given it a new lease on life. Lords of the Realm is a game of conquest with a lot more than grain sales.
It's England in the 13th century, and the highest seat in the kingdom is empty. Smaller nobles rule their lands as they please, and England suffers without the unifying power of a ruling monarch. You're one of those nobles, and starting with a single poor county and a few peasants to keep it running, you have to beat out the competition and bring England under your rule.
It starts simply enough. You pick a name and a crest. Note the distinct colors. The computer,
or any friends you might have handy,
controls the other 5 colors in the game. The starting positions are chosen randomly, and keep in mind that the computer plays each opponent in very different ways. At the start of a game, you don't have to worry about the other lords getting in your hair much, but it becomes more important as the game progresses. At first, though, you're just alone in your little corner of England trying to increase your population and keep them happy and fed.
In addition to the map, you'll have a lot of displays to give you the info you need to keep the county running. You determine just about everything from your peasants' work habits to their eating habits.
If you play your cards right, you can even create a society of people who eat nothing but dairy products. Not every game can promise an experience like that.
Maybe you can. My neighbors always seem to have more cows than me. It's depressing. But the screens were both functional and attractive, and gave you both the good news
and the bad news, right?
The game took a while to get into. It's a good thing the designers thought to include a walkthrough tutorial for the first few turns.
I agree. Once you get the hang of all the details that you have to manage, the game is fun from the start and only gets more interesting as you begin to expand into mining and industry to work on your armies.
And eventually castles. But in the meantime, there's grain to be planted and sown, cows to be herded, and shepherds abiding their flocks by night. All of it managed with an interface that was impressively friendly, considering the amount of information being doled out. The turn of the seasons and the changing needs of your people are attractively and simply displayed.
But you aren't alone in England, and almost immediately you'll start getting hate mail from your more aggressive opponents. While you're in adjusting your tax rate, don't forget that you can dispatch 1 messenger per turn, and flattery will get you everywhere if you keep it up. A hostile neighbor can be turned into an ally with a combination of friendly correspondence and a mutual enemy or two.
Never be ashamed to kiss a few boots. I never am.
Oh yes, and you're the role model that I'd pick for everyone to follow. There's no one true path to victory in Lords of the Realm. In fact, each of the counties requires a slightly different approach. If you're very isolated, the merchants won't visit you very often, and cash crops like wool become less dependable. And when the merchant does come to town, stock up on whatever you need.
You can buy anything, from practical things like stone to build castles or metal to make weapons, to impractical things like casks of ale. They won't do anything to make your population grow or your walls stand stronger against an enemy, but they will make your population happier, which will improve overall performance.
Booze conquers all. I like a game like that. Beer and dairy products. Truly a unique strategy game.
This guy shows up on a regular basis to tell you if you're doing okay. Displays like this one, both atmospheric and full of useful at-a-glance info, are one of the defining features of Lords of the Realm.
Once you've got a good stock of population and some cash to spread around, it's time to start building armies and sending them out to bring neighboring counties under your banner. This presents some interesting strategic challenges at times. Many of the neutral counties will be fielding large conscript armies to defend themselves. So in a situation like this, where you and your neighbor want the same county, it's often best to let him go for it first and move in after the battle is over. No matter who wins, they'll be weakened. This is no guarantee of long-term success, of course, and sometimes you'll still find your new castles burning, but the flush of victory is always waiting, and Lords of the Realm provides a nice graphic payoff for achieving anything good.
Even messing up will get you a sound effect and some animation, which is nice for folks like me who aren't so caught up in winning all the time.
Ah, but those who win get money and resources to build castles, one of the best parts of the game. You build everything from scratch here in the Castle Builder, where you choose any configuration you want of walls, towers, keeps, water, and so on.
The program tallies up the tons of wood and stone necessary to build whatever monstrosity you devise, so be careful not to get too extravagant until you're stinking rich. I once designed a super fortress that wasn't even half completed by the time the game had ended.
There are even a few authentic castle designs loaded in for the architecturally challenged, and once you've chosen or created your castle, you can view it from any angle.
No hype, folks. This is a good game, and I know I'll be coming back to it for quite some time, but that's at the cost of some real pain. Lords of the Realm has one glaring, utterly terrible problem.
The soldiers are slow. The soldiers are very,
very slow.
Gosh darn slow.
Excessively slow.
I know slow, and this is it, folks.
That's true. You do know slow. And after playing Lords of the Realm, so will anybody. If you see these screens, run for the hills and spend a year. The battle will still be going.
Fortunately, you're given the option of skipping the play-by-play real-time battle scenes. By all means, do so. But nothing that you can do will stop the armies themselves from marching at the speed of cold molasses across the main map of England. And whereas running a battle is like directing slugs across the parking lot, waiting 10 minutes for the armies to move around between turns is somewhere between watching grass grow and waiting for a Star Wars sequel.
It's especially ironic that actually watching grass grow is part of the game and is much faster and more fun than watching soldiers march. Go figure. If you can get past the slow turnaround time, and it is worth it, you've got a fine strategy game with a lot of elements and fun toys to play with.
Yep, if drowning Middlesex in a bath of wine is your idea of a good time, Lords of the Realm will give you the practice you need. And while it's a long way from Middlesex to the high throne, you'll enjoy every step of the way.